when you don't, maybe you don't realize that it's him that brought you, and everything you know he taught you, and everything you have he gave you, and a lot of us are praising God for what did happen, but I'm one of those that thank God for what didn't happen. Ooh, I wish I had somebody help me up in here today. I praise him for the stuff he didn't allow to happen. You ever thank God for the stuff you prayed for that he told you now to? Oh, Jesus, Jesus. To these preachers, to these deacons, deaconess, the mothers of our church, to this great Bread House family, and to all of those watching online, it is good to be in the house of the Lord again. Amen. Will you help me celebrate Jesus and give the Lord praise? But meet me in Hosea chapter 1, verse 2 and 3 is where you'll find our text for today. Hosea chapter 1, verse 2 and 3. It's going to be an interesting, rough ride, but he's talking to me too and to you as well. Hosea chapter 1, verse 2 through 3. It reads like this. When the Lord, I'm reading from the English Standard Version, says, when the Lord first spoke through Hosea, the Lord said to Hosea, go take to yourself a wife of whoredom and have children of whoredom, for the land commits great whoredom by forsaking the Lord. So he went and took Gomer, the daughter of Diblaim, and she conceived and bore him a son. Verse 2 says, go take a whore as your wife and have children with her. I want to talk about when God feels betrayed. When God feels betrayed. Allow me to read this from the Message Bible for the sake of clarity and understanding. It reads like this. The first time God spoke to Hosea, he said, find a whore and marry her. Make this whore the mother of your children. And here's why. This whole country has become a whorehouse, unfaithful to me, God. Hosea did it. He picked Gomer, daughter of Diblaim. She got pregnant and gave him a son. When God feels betrayed. Imagine being in the most amazing relationship. Imagine whether it's companionship or friendship, kinship, the most amazing relationship. And you found this special person and you have rescued them from all of their troubles. You have invested time, resources, effort, and energy into them. And if that wasn't enough, you also sacrificed for them. You look at where they are today and realize that it was your investment and your encouragement and your time that you put into them. Some of you can think back to some relationships and that you've had, and the person became great because you cleaned them up. You invested in them. You rescued them from themselves. You believed in them. You took a chance on them, and the relationship was outstanding. Imagine a joy that cannot be described until one day you discover they have been living a lie and a life of complete betrayal. Imagine you have loved them, you have cared for them, you have nurtured them, and you've built a long time of great companionship, only to discover they've been living a lie. They betrayed you. They have lied to you. They have cheated on you. They have discounted you. They have. Imagine the pain you would feel if they kept, after you caught them, if they kept doing what they were doing. Imagine the pain you would feel after you discovered their life of dishonesty and they still continued in their betrayal. Imagine going to your knees and saying, God, help me. God, do something. And then imagine God responding and hearing him say, I ordered that they betray you to reveal how you have betrayed me. Imagine praying for healing about those that have betrayed you the most, only for God to respond and say, now you see how you have made me feel. Imagine going to God for an answer, for him to tell you the why behind their what. And he says, I'll tell you why. They did it, but I told them to. I instructed it. I drove them to betray you because it was the only way I could get you to see how you have been doing me all along. How you promised me you would never do it again, but you did it over and over. Everything they did to you, you've already done to me. Doesn't that change the way you feel? Because when the person has betrayed you, you want them to pay for it. You want them to suffer the way you have suffered. You want them to hurt the way you have hurt it. But when God reminds you, that's exactly what you've done to me, it'll change the way you handle your betrayer. There is very little that can compare to the feeling of being betrayed or being cheated. It seems like nothing can fill the void that is left behind after unfaithfulness.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for sermons, messages, and more.
The pain, the power, the hurt that you feel when you've invested so much into a person only to discover that they have lived a life that does not appreciate what you gave them. It hurts. Nothing hurts like betrayal. And if you ain't never been betrayed, consider yourself lucky. But for those of us who have been committed to someone and someone has been committed to us, and this is not just about interpersonal relationships or companionships, but I'm talking about even friendships where they have betrayed you, kinships where they have betrayed you. Sometimes it be your own family. Oh, they have betrayed you. You have built people and encouraged people only to discover they are not worth the time you've invested. It can hurt. But what about when God feels betrayed? So often we'll jump on our soapbox and play the victim to the stuff we've done to God. But we'll play the victim to the things that others have done to us. But we'll beg forgiveness for the things we've done for God. Preach Pastor Jay up in here. I'm going to say that one more time, but I say we'll play the victim to the things that others have done to us, but we'll ask for forgiveness for the things we have done to God. I want you to understand that when God feels betrayed, we broke his heart. God has felt betrayed before. Even Jesus had 12 disciples, and one of them would betray him. The other would deny him. He felt betrayal on two different sides because these were not just other men. These were not just ordinary men, but these were men that were closest to him. The one that sold him out was closest to him, the one he trusted with his money, the one he trusted with his resources, and he betrayed him with a kiss. And the real closest one to him, the ride or die one, the one that said, I will never leave your side, stood before a whole host of people 3 times and said, I don't even know Jesus, and you the one that's closest to him more than anybody. Isn't it painful when people who are close to you deny even knowing you? Oh, because it's easy to know Jesus when he's healing the sick and raising the dead. It's easy for folk to ride with you when you on your way up, but everybody ain't gonna ride with you when you're on your way down. And I want you to understand that betrayal is real, and God has no sons that know. God only has one son that knows no sin, but he has no sons that knows no betrayal. Yeah, imagine how God feels. Imagine God saying, keep that same energy. Because what you can do, I can do better. Ooh, imagine God telling you, yeah, what you do, I can do better. Imagine God treating us the way we treat him. Imagine God saying, what if God treated us the way we treated his church? What if God treated us the way we treated his house? What if God decided that he's going to treat the church the way you he's going to treat your life the way he treats the church? What if God said that I'm going to treat your family the way you treated my house? What if God said, I'm going to be lazy waking you up in the morning and starting you on your way? What if God decided to do you on you? It ain't no fun when God's got the gun. Our featured text for today invites our attention to the book of Hosea, when God orders and officiates the painful marriage of the prophet and the prostitute. It was literally a match made in heaven, yet a marriage went through hell. We can accredit the prophet Hosea for this literature that captures God's unorthodox approach to addressing Israel's adultery through idolatry. You must understand that Israel is the chosen generation of God, the chosen people of God. So Hosea pens this book to illustrate God's love for his sinful people. Because of this, the minor prophets of our Old Testament, they rarely had good news to deliver, which leads me to ask you to be delivered from these prophets who always want to prophesy about what God gonna bless you with. And let me just set some of this theology straight real quick. You don't need a prophet to tell you God gonna send a check and pay bills. Because the Bible tells us, if you seek ye first the kingdom of God, he ain't got to send no prophet. All that stuff will just be given to you. Only time God used prophets in the Bible was when he was telling them, get right or get left. It was a prophecy of correction, not blessings. Because truth be told, if you live right, you're already in position to receive the blessings. You don't need no prophet to tell you God gonna send you a miracle. God gonna send you away, because the Bible already tells us, for my God shall supply all of my needs. He tells us, if you just keep my commandments, you won't have all these problems. And so the book opens with God giving the prophet Hosea some very disturbing directions. His instructions are not only insensitive, but insulting. Yeah, they insulting. And it's easy for us to sit back and say, how so? God can't be insulting. Well, you tell me how you would feel if the Lord told you to go marry. Now, let me pull over here for a moment and say something, because I need to protect the integrity of the pulpit while I'm teaching this message. Number one, I can't preach anything the Bible does not tell me not to preach. I don't preach anything but the Bible. So when I use this word whore, it is not a license for us to walk around with profane language on our lips. Because watch this, only God is the authorized user of the word. Wait a minute, Pastor, why is he the only authorized user? Because he's the only one holy enough to demand faithfulness in the first place. So we can't walk around saying, well, it's in the Bible, I can say it. Pastor Jay said it, I can say it. That ain't what you need. No. Don't y'all get in trouble and start lying on me. I don't preach nothing but the Bible, but I do have to be true to the text. So he tells, so God gives these insensitive and insulting instructions. He says, Hosea, go find you a great whore and marry her. Many of us would leave a whore. But God says to Hosea, go marry one. Go marry one. Go marry her. Go marry her. He literally commands him to turn a whore into the housewife. I told y'all it's going to be a rough ride. I hope y'all shouted early, but I don't preach nothing but the Bible. Is it in your Bible like it's in mine? I want to make sure I ain't made nothing up. Your Bible said the same thing mine said, right? So don't y'all run me out of here. I ain't said nothing that the text didn't say. Is that not what your text said? So he tells him to go marry her. But wait a minute, Lord. Isn't this against your own law? Because in Leviticus chapter 21, verse 7, it tells us do not go marry prostitutes. In Leviticus 21:7, he says priests should not marry prostitutes. And God, I told God, I said, Lord, you don't seem to make sense here. This is a contradiction. He said, read what you quoted to me. He said, read the text you quoted to me again. I said, well, you said in your word, Leviticus 21:7, that priests ought not marry prostitutes. And he said, read it again. I said, Lord, you said in your word that priests ought not marry prostitutes in Leviticus 21:7. And he said, Hosea is not a priest. He's a prophet. Ooh, I'm teaching better. Y'all listening down. He said, Hosea's not a priest. He's a prophet. And if that wasn't enough, he commands that he make her the mother of his children. Now, you want me to marry her, and you want me to sleep with her. And make her the mother of my children. Now, most times, if you're a man, you want to select someone that's got good qualities. Now, you might have been, you might have been, after, but you want a woman that's a good mother because she's going to be the mother of your children. Which leads me to say, be careful, who you lay with. Because who you lay with, you might end up staying with. Because if you don't want to, I tell my daughters, if you don't, they're at the age now where, it's time to just get real with them. My daughters are teenagers, they ain't babies no more, so I just shoot them straight. Look, baby, listen, if you don't want to have a baby with them, don't lay with them. Because some of us have been tied to some folk for 18 years. Woo, that we wish to God we could have got out of that mess. Look at how y'all looking at me. So he says, go marry her, have children with her. And he says, all of this, he tells him to go do all this to prove a point. And he explains why. Wait a minute, Lord. You done told the preacher, the prophet, to go marry a prostitute, sleep with her, have children with her, all to prove a point? Lord, you couldn't just write it out on the table. You couldn't just do like you did to Jeremiah, and the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah, and the word of the Lord came to Isaiah. You did all this. You put me through. Wait a minute, what did I do? I'm your preacher. What did I do? You doing all this to prove a point. And he says, yeah. I said, well, Lord, what point are you trying to prove? He said, well, look in verse 2. He says in verse 2, for the land commits great whoredom by forsaking the Lord. He said that's the reason why. Because they have been cheating on me. He says, so I want y'all to know what it feels like to be cheated on. You got to understand, Israel broke the marital covenant they established with God upon their deliverance. See, remember when Israel was delivered from Egypt? Well, see, we like to remember the fact that they crossed the Red Sea and that God brought them out. But what we forget is that when they got to the land on the other side of the Red Sea, they had praise and worship. But after that, God said, okay, now y'all done shouting, right? Yeah, we done praise you. Okay, now sit down, let me talk to you. Because you do know your deliverance comes with conditions. He says, if now that I have delivered you, I need and require you to live according to my word. He says, now you belong to me and I belong to you. He says, thou shalt not worship no other gods before me. He writes down all these commandments. He says, now you and I are married. Because what God ain't finna do is invest all this time and resources in delivering you only for you to leave and go back where you been. Ooh, look at how y'all looking at me up in here. I said, what he ain't gonna do is keep investing in you and keep pouring into you only for you to keep doing what you've been doing. So he says, my deliverance comes with conditions. The conditions are the commitment. See, I need to pull over right there. God is teaching them right off the bat that some things come with a cost. Somebody in the building right now, you've been giving somebody all your time, all your money, all your effort, all your resources, and you ain't getting no commitment in return. And God says, if I delivered you, you need to marry me. So they established this covenant where God became their God and they became his people. And then they broke it, worshiping other gods. They didn't just go pick another God, but they worshiped the God of the lands that they were in. So whatever land they traveled to, they would take on that God. Isn't it funny how you can know your God, but you'll transform when you depend upon where you at? So at church, you know God, but at the club, he just know you. And I know you say, but I'm still a Christian. Yeah, but you don't live like and look like. See, down here at the bread house, you know God. But at the hangar, Oh, okay, so we brand new today. See, it's one thing. See, God says what you can't do is take on the behavior of the land you in. So he says they started cheating on him. They started cheating on him. And he says that he says they started worshiping other gods. They started cheating on God. They broke the marital covenant with God. And I need you to understand that if you are a child of God, if you are a believer, you are married to God. God ain't got no single kids. That's why the church is the body of Christ and the bride of Christ. So maybe the betrayal you keep getting from people is God showing you the betrayal you keep giving him. I said this before. If you want to know how God feels about you, look at how other folks been treating you. Usually, the problems you have with other people are identical to the problems God have with you. If you keep getting folks that's unfaithful to you and betray you, it's because you've been unfaithful and keep betraying God. Why folks keep lying on me? Because you keep lying on God. Well, how do you keep lying on God? Saying the Lord called you to this and he ain't called you to that. Lying on the Lord. Oh. So what he says is, he says, you've been unfaithful to me. You have worshiped idol gods. And many of us will check out right here because we think, oh, I don't worship no idol God. I'm a Christian. Wait. Whoa. Ain't nobody asked you, where's your allegiance? I asked you, where's your worship? Oh, because there's a difference between my allegiance and my worship. See, my allegiance is to the Most High God, but your worship can be whatever you put before your Most High God. Preach, Pastor Jay. I'm trying as hard as I can. Some of us are saying that we have not worshiped any other gods, but let your job call. And you're going to worship your job. Let your money come and you're going to work. Let your numbers hit. And we'll find out who your God really is. Preach, Pastor Jay. I don't scared of nobody in the building. Let your side, call. And then we'll find out who your God really is. Some of us have been worshiping our drug habit, worshiping our bottle, worshiping our sex habit, worshiping our money. And I want you to understand that anything you put before God is a worship. You need to ask yourself, why am I not productive? I'm so busy. Well, then whatever, if you too busy for God, then God, dog it, you just too doggone busy. How you too busy for the one that saved you? How you too busy for the one that kept you? How you too busy for the one that gave you the job? How you too busy for the one that keep on making a way? How you too busy for the one that keep on opening doors? How you too busy for the one that's really paying the bills? You too busy. So Hosea does as God commanded him by selecting Gomer, the prostitute, as his wife. Gomer would continue. What's so sad is that he marries Gomer. And you would think that if the prostitute marries the preacher, she'd have enough sense to stop prostituting. But she keep on doing what she been doing. Can I say this to you? Just because you got saved don't mean you're going to stop. So she keeps on doing what she been doing. Continued in her unfaithfulness as she had a pattern of going off and coming back. The way she would do it is she's married, but she'd come up missing. I'm serious. I'm telling you the Bible. She would come up missing for a couple days. And then when she's done, and because watch this, she had comfort, but she didn't have her covering. So when she became uncomfortable with being uncovered, she'd come back to her covering. Ooh. And then when she finally got her covering, she'd go back out and do it again. Too many of us, we are comfortable in our lifestyle until we discover we need God to cover us. So we keep going in and out, in and out. And God says, keep on messing with me. You're going to come back and find the doors closed. I remember, I'll tell y'all this funny story. I remember when I got a little older. I was living in my grandmother's house, and I got a little older, and I think I was like 18, 19 years old, out of high school, and so I decided I'm going out. And so, because I decided I'm going to go out, hanging with the fellas, and we're going to go out and have a good time. And it's 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm pulling up at the house. And you know, in the hood, we had burglar bars. And the burglar bars was locked, but the front door is usually unlocked. So I get, and I wave upon the officer, hey, man, y'all have a good night, man, y'all going on. So I get into the gate, and by 3 in the morning, and Carlos, I get in the gate, but I try to open the door and notice the door locked. Now, I got in the burglar bars, which let me in the porch, but I couldn't get in the house because the door was locked. So about 3 in the morning, I'm sitting here trying to make life decisions. Do I ring the doorbell and wake mama up? Because ain't nobody else in the house to let me in. So I took a chance because my ride is gone. So I took a chance. I rung the doorbell, and mama comes to the door and says, how can we help you? I said, Mama, it's me. And she said, yeah, how can we help you? Now watch this. She knows my voice. She knows her grandchild. But she says, yeah, how can we help you? I said, Mama, can I get in? She said, yeah, but we close, baby. We don't open till in the morning. Whew. Oh, Jesus. At 3 in the morning, you don't want to hear we closed when your ride done pulled off. So I closed the gate and sat on the chair in the porch. Because in Highland Hills, you don't want to be roaming the streets at 3 in the morning. So I locked the gate and I slept on the porch. And around 7 o'clock in the morning, grandmama walks out, baby, we open, let me come talk with you for a minute. I said, Mama, why you do me like that? She said, baby, I need you to understand, you can't keep coming in and out of my house any time of night. And if grandmama got enough sense to make you respect her house and her presence, what make you think God ain't gonna tell you you're gonna have to stop coming in and out of her whenever you feel like it? Running to God when you need a miracle, running to God when you need a blessing, but then you're going to court the enemy and court Satan all week and all this mess that you do all week, and then you want God to make a way out of no way, open the windows of heaven, but you keep climbing through windows at night. Preach, Pastor Jay, I'm trying as hard as I can. God said you ain't going to keep coming here, we closed. Some of us ain't going to be satisfied till we get there and he closed. And that's just what happened. In this text, God says, I'm closed. Ooh, that hurts. God goes further and tells him what to name their children. These names were prophetic names that revealed the fruit of Israel's unfaithfulness. Everything they made God feel, he now intends to make them feel. Every time, think about this. When someone cheats on you, think about how you feel with every encounter you know about. Think about how it hurts. Now ask yourself, if God has all of us that he's married to, think about how he feels every time you betray him, every time you sin against him, every time you lie, every time you have unmarital sex, every time you smoke what you smoke, every time you say things you shouldn't say, every time you drink something you shouldn't drink, every time you do something you shouldn't do. Think about how God feels, how betrayed he feels when you choose your sin over your Savior. Think about how God feels betrayed every time. And God says, I've had enough. I'm going to make you feel what I feel. Isn't that what you really want? When somebody betrays you, you want them to feel what you feel. You ain't satisfied till they feel betrayed like you felt betrayed. You ain't satisfied. That's why you start doing your thing so they can see you do your thing. Hopefully, they'll feel the pain that you feel. God says what you can do. Keep that same energy because I can do better. God says to them, he says, when you have these children with your newfound whore, he says, these children that you have are going to be named after the prophetic punishment that you will have on your lives. Our faithfulness, our unfaithfulness to God reveals fruits of punishment, no mercy, and disconnection. He says to them, he said when he laid with her in verse 4 through 5, he laid with her in he laid with her, got her pregnant, and she bare him a son. She bare him a son. Look at verse 4 through 5. She bare him a son. And the text says, and the Lord said to him, call his name Jezreel, for in just a little while I will punish the house of Jehu for the blood of Jezreel, and I will put an end to the kingdom of the house of Israel. And on that day, I will break the bow of Israel in the valley of Jezreel. The fruit of our unfaithfulness is penalty from God. That's the first fruit, punishment. Punishment. God says, I'm going to make you bear fruit that looks like what you did. Punishment. I'm going to punish you in your produce. Everything you produce is going to be punishment. That's why old folks used to tell us, be careful how you treat your parents, because one day when you have kids.
Like us on Facebook at Bethlehem Missionary Baptist Church.
He says, and he called his name Jezreel, for in just a little while I will punish the house. He says, name him Jezreel. Jezreel, which means punishment. Your produce will resemble your penalty. God says he will punish the house of Jehu. Watch this. He punishes the house of Jehu because Jehu is the one that took too far the destruction of King Ahab. It was prophesied that King Ahab was going to be destroyed because of his corruption. But Jehu took it way too far. He punished way more than what he should, and he did more punishment than what God approved. And so God says, I'm going to punish the house of Jehu because they have taken their idolatry and made it their own importance. In other words, they've done more than what I told them to do. I did execute punishment through him, but what I did not tell him to do was too much punishment. See, you got to be careful how much vengeance you get. So he says, in Jezreel, where he carried out his punishment, that's where I'm going to punish him at. He says, since you messed up in Jezreel, I'm going to punish you in Jezreel. So name your child Jezreel, because where you messed up is where I'm about to punish you. That's how them old parents would do. They didn't wait till you got home. They'd get you where you messed up at. If you messed up at school, they get you at school. My grandmama would file up there with a house coat on and the wig crooked. And you already knew who mama was, because the one that got quiet is who mama was. Come here, let me holler at y'all real quick. And she'd take you outside, and the whole school knew you was in trouble. They don't do that now, but mama would get you, if you showed out in church, you'd get it in church. If you showed out at so-and-so house, you'd get it at so-and-so house, and when you got back to your house, you'd get it again. So God says, I'm going to punish you where you messed up at. He says 25 years later, look at what the text says. He says, I will break the bow of Israel. Before that, he says, I will put an end to the kingdom of the house of Israel. He says, basically, in 25 years, God would end Israel's independent kingdom. He says, you will no longer be an independent nation. God says, I can no longer trust you to be on your own. I'm taking your independence. Remember when God let you do you, hoping that you do right, only to discover that he let you do you and you did wrong? And so now God says, don't worry about it. I got you. Since you can't do right, you need to stay close to me. That's why God didn't let you get the job you wanted, because it was going to give you too much freedom. That's why God didn't let you get the spouse you wanted, because you were going to get too much freedom. God said, I need to keep you close to me. He says, he teaches us that you will always reap later than you sow and greater than you sow. He says that there's punishment. But look at verse 6 and 7. There's not only punishment, but there's no mercy. Verse 6 says, she conceived again and bare a daughter. And the Lord said to him, call her name No Mercy, for I will no more have mercy on the house of Israel to forgive them at all. Ooh. But I will have mercy on the house of Judah, and I will save them by the Lord their God. I will not save them by bow or by sword or by war or by horses or by horsemen. The fruit of our unfaithfulness is also no mercy from God. Ooh, you remember when you pray, Lord, have mercy. Had you ever thought about what if he said no? You know what mercy is, right? Mercy and grace are cousins, but they're different. Grace is God's unmerited favor. God doing you a favor. God pouring you out blessings. But grace is when he gives you what you don't deserve. Mercy is when he stops you from getting what you actually do deserve. You don't ever want God to stop having mercy on you. Because if he lifts his mercy, then that means everything you deserve, you're going to get. And in the text, he says, name this daughter Lo Rahama, which means no mercy. God, you mean no mercy? The text says, call her name No Mercy. Why? Because I will no longer have mercy on the house of Israel to forgive them. So God says, in order for me to forgive you, I got to have mercy. And if I don't have mercy for you, then I won't forgive you. What? See, we like this gentle Savior, this kind God, the God that opens up the windows of heaven, the God that leadeth us beside still waters, but we don't know enough about this God that don't have no mercy. He says no mercy in verse 3. But here's something interesting. In verse 3, look at verse 3 for a second. I want y'all to see something. Look at verse 3. So he went and married Gomer, daughter of Diblaim, and she conceived and bore him a son. Who is him? Hosea, right? So she bore him a son. Now go back to verse 6 again. She conceived again and gave birth to a daughter. Verse 3 says she bore him a son. Verse 6 says she had a daughter. Verse 3 says she bore him a son. Verse 6 says she had a girl. Let me make sure I make this plain for you. She ain't Hosea's. Oh, remember he told her to marry the whore, right? She ain't doing nothing but what she's supposed to do, because that's what they do. So she had a baby on him. And this baby is no mercy. He says, not only are you going to give birth to your punishment, but I'm going to make sure you give birth to a girl with no mercy. He says, he named her Lo Rama, which means no mercy, because we showed God no mercy. Think about it. Your sin, you showed God no mercy. You kept on doing what you've been doing. Lazy, unproductive, won't do what God asked you to do. You've been showing God no mercy, no matter how much it hurt his feelings. You think God ain't got feelings? No matter what you've been showing him no mercy. And beware of when God has no mercy left for you. When God says, I will no longer show mercy to them, you need to be very careful of when making God feel like there's no more mercy for you. Verse 7, he says he will save Judah because of their faithfulness. He said, but watch this. He said, I'm going to save them. I won't use it with weapons and war and men and horsemen. He said, I'm just going to save them because I'm Jehovah. Watch this. Even though Judah is a part of Israel, they didn't live like Israel. That means God going to be fair. He ain't going to punish those that were living right. So that's why you ought not be weary in your well-doing. Some of the few of us are trying to do things right, stop being weary in your well-doing, because the punishment that's happening around you ain't going to always happen to you. So the last thing he says is in verse 8 through 10, he says, and when she weaned no mercy, that means when she got done breastfeeding and weaned her off onto her own food, she conceived and bore a son. Wait a minute. Verse 3 says she bore him a son. Verse 8 says she bore a son. Here we go again. She done had a girl out of wedlock on her husband. Now she done had a boy on her husband. And his name is Lo-Ami, which means you are not my people. Ooh. Punishment, no mercy. This is what happens when God is offended. And you are no longer my people. Ooh. I didn't think it could get worse than no mercy. But he says in verse 9, and the Lord said, call his name not my people. You are not my people, and this is what hurt. I am not your God. Oh, that hurts. Because it's one thing for me to not be his, but it's another thing for him to say, I'm not yours either. You ain't the only one that can break up when folk betray you. You ain't the only one that can cut folk off. Woo. Wish I had somebody help me up in here. You ain't the only one know how to cut. God cut off game so serious. He said, you ain't my people and I ain't your God. Since you're going to keep on living the way you living, then go do you, but leave me out of it. Don't ask me for nothing. Don't claim me. Take my name off your t-shirts. Put my Bible down. Get out of my house that I bought you. Get out the car I bought you. To the left, everything you own. To the box, to the left. Get out. Since you don't like me, get out. When God cuts you off, he said, run me back all the blessings I gave you, all the healings I gave you. Run me back all the money I invested in you. Run me back everything I blessed you with. You're not my people. We broke up. And I'm not your God. And in the place, he says, notice something. In verse 8, nothing is accidental about Scripture. In verse 8, it says, when she weaned no mercy, when she weaned the little girl off of her breast, the baby was still young, and she already conceiving another one. Let me ask you something. How long did it take you to do it again? Verse 9, she names him Lo-Ami, which means not my people. This dissolves the covenant made in Jeremiah 7 and 23. And I want you to go there for a second. I want you to see something. Look at Jeremiah 7 and 23. I'm done, y'all. I'm done. Jeremiah 7 and 23. However, I did give them this command. Obey me, and then I will be your God. Watch this. I gave them this command. Obey me, and then I will be your God. Watch this. God being your God is conditional upon you obeying him. So if you don't obey him, then he's not obligated to be your God. And he says, and you will be my people. So through obedience, he becomes your God, and you will become his people. He says you must walk. Give me what's next verse. You must walk. In verse 24, give me 7 and 24. Yet they didn't listen or pay attention, but walked according to their own advice and according to their own stubborn, evil heart. They went backward and not forward. So when God says you are no longer my people, now this is back in Jeremiah. This is in Jeremiah. They've been doing this a long time. Notice how long it took for God to finally cut you off. He's had mercy before. He says, I'm dissolving the covenant that I made in Jeremiah 7 and 23. They are now without him, and he's without them. The most dangerous place in the world to be is wherever God is not. Anywhere where he's not, that's dangerous. But look at verse 10. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be like the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured or numbered. And in the place where it was said to them, you are not my people, it shall be said to them, children of the living God. He does turn the whore into the housewife. He does. Because after a while, they finally get it. He had an unfailing love for an unfaithful people. You know what I'm glad about? Is that with all God knows about us, he still loves us. I'm done. That's all I really want. With all he knows about us, he still loves us. Think about the worst things you've ever done, and he still loves you. Think about the worst things you've ever done, and he still loves you. He still loves you. You used to be a drug addict, but he still loves you. You used to be a whore, but he still loves you. You used to be, some of us still are, drug addicts and whores and all these things, but he still loves you. He still loves you. That's why I love him so much. Because many of y'all love him because of what he do for you, but I love him because he keep putting up with me, Donna. Because when you, see, for those of you who've been saved all your life and you've been church all your life and you've been good all your life, I ain't talking about you. But for those of us who have made some mistakes And I mean some big mistakes where God should have cut us off, where God should have walked away from us, where God should have never blessed us, never talked to us again, but he still loves you. And I'm so glad that he loves me. I'm glad that he loves me. When I was unlovable, he loves me. When I was unlovable, he loves me. That's why I praise him. Because great is thy faithfulness. Even though we ain't faithful, he's always been faithful. He's always been faithful. Yes, he has. And if you be honest with yourself, he's been better than you could be to you. He's faithful. I said, Lord, it's first Sunday. I really want to celebrate. He said, I ain't told you to celebrate nothing. What we celebrate for? My people are cheating on me with their own gods. No, I don't want a celebration. I want incarceration. Because there's too many of us praising God from the whorehouse. Shouting, still in the whorehouse. Praising and churching, still ain't changed your life. So what you do is you come in here on Sunday, get your religious fix for your moral migraine, and then you go right back. I mean, you ain't got enough Holy Ghost to last through the day. God says, I'm sick and tired. Be careful, because at one point, God gonna make you feel everything you made him feel. God bless you. God keep you. Father, we thank you for showing us ourselves. Father, forgive us for every lazy spirit, every slothful spirit, every unconcerned spirit, every demonic spirit, every sin we've committed. Forgive us. Lord, we need you. Cast us not away from your presence. In the name of Jesus. Lord, somebody needs to be saved. Somebody needs a church home, wants to be baptized, needs to be delivered. I pray that you would lead them to your presence. Whether they're watching online or here in person, lead them down the aisle with boldness to accept you as Lord and Savior. In the name of Jesus, we ask these things and pray. Amen. If you have not accepted Christ as your Lord and Savior, we offer Christ to you today. If you need a church home, we offer him to you today. If you need baptism, someone to partner with you in prayer, we offer that to you today as well. If you're watching us online and you want to be a part of this great church family, you need to be saved, or any of your spiritual needs need to be met, send us a message. We'd love to connect with you. God bless you. God keep you is our prayer in Jesus' name. Give the Lord a hand of praise today.
To support our ministry or anything Bread House, donate on Givelify. Download the Givelify app. With a few clicks, you'll be set up to give on the go. Thank you for your support. See you next time.